all, and also to close the digital divide. So they have very targeted programs like the National Education Technology Plan, the Digital Equity Education Roundtables, they call it DEAR, the Educational Technology Media and Materials for Individuals with Disabilities, which they call it as the eTech M2. So these are some of the interesting initiatives from the United States of America, and we look forward to some more details in the sessions that follow. From the United Kingdom, there has been a very strong emphasis on, on the school education, and also that they have a gigabit broadband program for which they have invested around 82 million pounds. And they also have courses in the classrooms, specifically they are looking at connectivity in some of the priority areas to basically bridge the digital divide. And there is an interesting effort on assistive technology pilot classrooms and basically to train mainstream school staff to address people, students and children with disabilities. On the Australian side, there is a lot of emphasis on online resource. There are three key initiatives that we look at. One is the Online Resource Hub, which has three subparts: the Digital Technology Hub, the Matrix Hub, and the Library Hub. And then there's a National Lending Library, which is government funded, which supports delivery of AI, digital, and emerging technology contents across the country, specifically tailor-made to the Australian curriculum. Looking at China, China has a high-quality education, free for rural areas, and there are common resource platforms. And they do have a program on National Smart Education Platform, which was constructed around COVID-19. China has constructed, during COVID-19 breakover, a number of around 44,000 class resources and given it free of cost, and these are upgraded in 2022. When we look at the European Union, again, the stress is on high quality, inclusive and accessible digital education. They've also looked at individual mobility and institutional cooperation across borders. And some of the important programs they have are the Digital Education Action Plan, DEEP, and Selfie, which is a self-access tools for schools. They are working towards an European education policy during 2025. Netherlands has a specific program for children who do not receive education, specifically due to physical, mental, or home-related reasons. And they also have an EDU-V program, which is government funded with an outlay of 35 million pounds. Now, these programs are on the digital end. They have a digital school, which is a virtual program, and they also have a national education lab for AI in addition to the EDU-V program. When we look at France, France has an interesting virtual voice assistant called Captain Kelly, which is used to teach English and also use AI in listening and speaking. And this tool is used as a complement to primary school teachers, not replacing them, but as a complement to the primary school teachers. When we look at Spain, they do have a new education law and curriculum to improve digital competence. They have around 240,000 classrooms that are covered under this program. And they are looking at plan for digitalization and digital competence of Spanish education system, and very seriously looking at bridging the digital divide and specifically the local language content and culturally responsive education. They do have a national education program to address these many, many facets of school education. When we look at South Africa, they have a Department of Basic Education, and an AI public special schools with ICT equipment. So this program is basically, they have a resource, as we understand, that looks at digital technologies to basically enhance the school education part. They are looking at bridging the digital divide, and they have also local language content. Some of the important programs are the virtual classroom solution, the mobile network supported ICT resources, a central application service, and a TVET campus connection program called TCCP. Mauritius had an education reforms agenda 2016, where they had looked at seriously on the technology-enabled learning, equity, and accessibility. There are multiple programs here. One is the Early Digital Learning Program, the EDLP, in collaboration with India. So we are very happy about that. And then a student support program. And also there is a strong collaboration with NCERT India. Turkey has concentrating again on providing equal opportunities in education and improves technology in schools. They have improved accessibility, inclusivity, productivity, equity, measurability, and quality are the main criteria for some of their educational initiatives. They have a VPN access, internet access program. They have a very stable network infrastructure and a teacher information network. Through the VPN access program, they have connected more than 14,320 schools, and they have a network infrastructure with connecting around 20,000 plus ICT labs. Indonesia, they have an emancipated teaching program, and they have around 2.3 million teachers are basically enrolled through this trainers program. Coming to India, we have our national education policy, which focuses on access, equity, quality, affordability, and accountability. And we have multiple programs. The Swayam, which is study web of active learning by young and aspiring minds. The Samarth, an university information management system. The Diksha, which is for the schools, is a digital infrastructure for knowledge sharing. Many of this we will discuss and debate during the sessions. Coming to the common and key challenges, there is a need for an overlapping responsibility, monitoring the outcomes, and continuous improvement. These are some of the common challenges. Multiple languages and cultural diversity, resource allocation and resource management, scalability, and especially the post-COVID environment where there could have been a loss of learning, and how do we manage that? These are some of the basic, common, and key challenges which can be part of our deliberations in respect to the school education. Now I move on to the higher education part. Some of the very interesting projects in the different countries, specifically when we start with United States of America, they have been using digital technologies for higher education, and one of the important things is that they have used blockchain as a pilot project. This basically includes guardianship identity, verifiable credentials, education credential digital wallet, transfer credit recognition system, and digital credential platform. This becomes extremely crucial when we look at education, where we could have an academic bank of credits, where students can access education across multiple universities, take the best, and come out with one recognizable degree, right? So this blockchain gives you a very, very secure environment with lot more of verification on the academic credentials. I think this is a very interesting development when we would like to look at in great detail. United Kingdom, the higher education providers are autonomous here, and the Department of Education is not involved in digital initiatives, as we understand from the slides. But they have a degree conversion program in AI to meet the growing demand. And they are funding scholarship for students from underrepresented backgrounds to undertake AI and data science conversion courses. And they also attract industry investments and reduce government investment. From Australia point of view, there is a regional university center program which looks at the tertiary education access in regional and remote areas, and which uses significant amount of technology. And there is also an access for traditionally underrepresented, like first in family, Aboriginal with disability, etc. China has a smart education platform for higher education. They have 20 online programs, 20,000 high-quality courses selected from 50,000 courses. Top professors and courses, they have the golden online classrooms. So the National Smart Education Program for higher education, enabled with big data, AI, and other technologies, form some of China's initiatives. From the European Union, there is a Connecting European Facility, CEF program, which support individual mobility and institutional cooperation across borders. They have also a digital European student card, the Erasmus Plus without papers, and the framework for micro-credentials. These are some of the technology-related initiatives. It's very specific to higher education from the European Union. When we look at Netherlands, there's a SURF program, which basically talks about cooperative IT organization for Dutch higher education, a platform for knowledge sharing and workshop for innovation. These are some of the initiatives from Netherlands. They focus on open education APIs and information exchange for students, along with infrastructures for micro-credentials. Looking at France, there's a Find My Master's Degree program, a unique digital platform to display master's degrees, and a simplification of the relationship between students and universities using technology. Spain has a transformation of classroom in higher vocational training centers into stages of applied technology and entrepreneurship classrooms in vocational education and training. South Africa has an implementation of National Student Data Warehouse, comprehensive data to provide evidence of success of education system in meeting National Development Plan. And they also have looked at being accessible to all interested parties, provide positive feedback for curriculum revision and renewal from higher education to basic education. Mauritius has a technology-enabled learning project and open educational resources policy. This is a support from Commonwealth of Learning in the development of OER policy and continuity in learning and assessment in higher education ensured during COVID. Indonesia has a Kedai Reka platform where industry presents their challenges and academics can offer ideas. There are close to 9,700 industry partners registered and 12,900 ideas and solutions proposed in the last few years. India has multiple higher education institutions and centrally funded technical institutions. We have a national innovation and startup policy. We have continued the emphasis on STEM while embracing emerging technologies. We have a very, very strong emphasis on interdisciplinary courses. The BS Data Science program, as explained in the previous presentation. We have a very strong support for innovation to kindle entrepreneurship and the spirit to meet the vision of Atmanirbharta, which is self-sufficiency. All these have been highlighted in the national education policy of our country. So to sum up on the higher education side, these are the common and key challenges. One is most higher educational institutions are autonomous and need appropriate management to ensure equity and quality, and need to blend online and face-to-face teaching, limited access for people with disabilities that need to be addressed, responsive to changing labor market, cyber security and privacy concerns, and change management. These are common key challenges that we find across the nations, which could be part of our deliberations looking forward. Coming to the last part, namely the skill development, USA has an educator preparation program to prepare future teachers to be successful in new digital learning environments, and they prepare to thrive in digital learning environment, use technology for professional learning, applied frameworks to accelerate transformation, and improve expertise and increase collaboration. Now, from the Office of Educational Technology and International Society of Technology in Education, the ISTE and the OET, they conduct these educator preparation program, and then this is for ensuring digital equity and transformation network. From the UK, there is a Genet Computer Network, the UK's National Research and Education Network. They funding, there is a considerable amount of funding for skills and further education, and also they connect through the Janet, which also has a digital elevation tool for online self-assessment. Basically, reskilling is to be enabled at scale, and technology will be probably the only solution to arrive at that scale, because as we see with the growing industry 4.0, the different needs that come on a constant basis, these are some of the very interesting initiatives that can take us quickly reskill our people to meet the growing demands and to meet the changing demands from the industry. When we look at Australia, Australia has a digital skills organization, the DSO, established to engage with digital and tech industry to improve training to meet skill needs. The DSO developed digital skills platform model are used for both skill assessment and also digital skill standards. So this is one of the important initiatives from the Australian side. China actually has the National Smart Education Platform on vocational education, specifically targeted to improve digital resources with real-time analysis and optimizing scheduling systems. They have around, again, 30,000 courses of various kinds, including 22,000 courses from 1,209 professional teaching resource libraries, 6,628 online courses, and 2,222 open video courses, 2,222. So this is the scale at which vocational education is addressed by China. EU has developing teaching and learning skills, which is a key pillar of DEEP, a program, Digital Education Action Plan. It also includes AI and data related skills as core skills in EU's digital competence framework. There is also a EU level targets are being set for students, specifically from the digital skill, and they also have technology intervention to boosting women participation, specifically in STEM disciplines. Netherlands has a digitalizing Simples. It's an initiative to make education more responsive to labor market and enhancing digital skills. They also set up a Center for Teaching and Learning and National Transformation Hub. France has PIX, a public online service for assessing, developing and certifying digital skills. It's based on the European Digital Competence Reference Framework, which has currently enrolled 6.5 million users and 1.7 million certificates have been taken. So they have an accessibility in English and compulsory national testing at the end of lower secondary school. These are some of the highlights of the France initiatives. From Spain, there are two categories, what they call as the A actions and the B actions in the strategic action plan dedicated towards skill development. There is a transformation of classrooms in higher vocational training centers into spaces of applied technology, and the entrepreneurship classrooms in vocational education and training, which form the very important aspects of this strategic plan. Under the A action plan, they have a target of 638 by Q4 of 2024. And they are also looking at 374 new 496 using funds of financial year 2020 and 457 classrooms, entrepreneurship classrooms in financial 2021. This basically shows the great importance Spain attaches to specifically vocational training and skill development. From South Africa, there is a national open learning system called NOLS, which provides high quality, accessible digital learning materials for e-learning opportunities, and it's free and online. Mauritius has a micro credential in the National Qualification Program, and they have a digital experiential learning in the polytechnics supported by the British Council. Turkey has mathematics education platform to support teaching and learning process with real content and related to daily life. They have an EBA digital education platform and applications, and an OBA teacher information network, which has 533 online courses and 22 professional communities benefiting out of that. Indonesia has, again, the Emancipated Campus platform. This is a platform which provides university students with thousands of opportunities outside of campus. The students can sign up to selected industry partners for semester-long internships and research, etc. This is from the skill development point of view. From India, we have the Ministry of Skill Development. We have multiple schemes like the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, the PMKVY, the India International Skill Centers, the Sankalp, which is skill acquisition and knowledge awareness for livelihood, the National Artificial Intelligence Translation Tool, which plays a crucial role in skill development, specifically from a multilingual perspective. We also have the National Internship Portal and Bhashini, which is again an AI-based translation tool, which translates from one language to many of our many of our official Indian languages. We also have specific programs on craftsman training, advanced vocational training, upgradation, entrepreneurship support, and funding support. Coming to the common and key challenges that we look at when we study all the countries, one thing is to have a program that is inclusive and relevant. And we also should address the weak economy and insufficient entrepreneurship to basically, what are the solutions for that to boost entrepreneurship in the country, and the need to help local economy, agile and effective instruments for skilling versus need of industry with the changing industry needs, and lack of motivation at various levels. How do we address that? Not just students, but teachers and implementing agencies. How do we address that and bring in the spirit of innovation and entrepreneurship and the innovation for relearning and continuous lifelong learning? These are the common challenges that we see. So what I have tried to do is, we got these inputs from multiple countries. I've tried to summarize all, tried to bring some of the best initiatives in these countries, and also got some common denominator about the common and key challenges. This would, I believe, can become the part of our discussions in the 3 sessions that are going to follow on school education, higher education, and skill development. We are at Chennai, the birthplace of Thiruvalluvar, a celebrated Tamil poet, philosopher, and sage. The Tirukural that he has composed is a collection of couplets broadly on 3 topics, namely virtue, worth, wealth, and love. And it's a priceless guide for sustainable living. I will conclude my presentation with a couplet in Tirukural which goes, En enba enai, எழுத்தென்ப இவ்விரண்டும், கண் என்ப வாழும் உயிர்க்கு, which essentially means the numbers and alphabets are the 2 eyes through which one must see the world. Friends, we are looking at a sustainable development. The future generation must understand the wider world, and education is the only tool. Needless to mention that we will work together to give them the best. Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam, one earth, one family, one future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Kamakoti, for bringing in the best practices around the world Now, may I now request the stage management team to set up the stage for the next panel discussion. Dear participants, there will be a tea break session after this panel discussion.
Check, check.
I kindly request all of you to be please seated. I kindly request all of you to please be seated in your seats. We're going to start with the next session. So please do not move and remain seated. so that we could start with the next session. So I request all of you to be seated. So we start with the next session. Thank you, Rudra. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Angelina, working in the donor stewardship team in the Office of Alumni and Corporate Relations at IIT Madras. I take great pleasure in inviting you all for the first G20 Education Working Group meeting on the role of digital technologies in education. A seminar and exhibition stalls have been arranged around this theme. The seminar will have 3 sessions, each devoted to a particular topic. The 3 topics are providing accessible and equitable education for K-12 learners, enabling high-quality higher education learning opportunities at scale, and emerging technologies to provide skill education and training. Without further ado, I invite the chair of session 1, Shri Sanjay Kumar, Secretary of School Education, Government of India, to the dais to discuss the topic, provide accessible and equitable education for K-12 learners. Now, with great joy, I invite the panel members of the first session, Dr. Maria Lujan Tubio from UNICEF, who is an education specialist at the UNICEF Regional Office for South Asia. Dr. Samira Al-Hosani from the UAE, who is the Director of the Department of Humanities and Languages Curriculum at UAE Ministry of Education. I now invite Dr. Abdul Rahman Alamri, who serves as the Assistant Deputy Minister for International Cooperation, Ministry of Education, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And Mr. Matthew Johnston from Australia, who is the Minister Counselor, Education and Research, Department of Education, Australian High Commission, New Delhi. Key points for discussion would be as follows. Strategies adopted by G20 members to address learning loss due to COVID-19. Challenges in achieving last-mile connectivity, digital divide, language barriers, etc. Country-specific difficulties that can be addressed through collaborative efforts. I now invite Sri Sanjay Kumar, Secretary of School Education, Government of India, to make a 5-minute presentation, which will be followed by the panel discussion. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. My distinguished colleagues who are on the dais with me, and all our colleagues who are part of this deliberation. The topic has already been introduced: to provide accessible and equitable education, K-12, democratizing quality education through digital technologies. In India, the numbers always pose a bit of a challenge for all of us. And if you look at the school education, we have 1.48 million schools in the country, which have 265 million students. We teach in 20 languages, more than that. 170 million out of this 265 are in government and government-aided schools. There are 95 million of these students who are in the private sector, taught by 9.5 million teachers. There are 62 educational boards of instructions across the country. And as you all know, that in India, we have a federal form of a government. The Constitution says education is part of the state as well as the union. So out of this 1.48 million schools, the Government of India runs just about 2,000. The rest of the schools are part of different boards, and they are situated in the different states, UTs, of which we have 36. So I'm mentioning this data just for you because to appreciate the kind of complexity in the school education. This is the age-wise profile proportional of male and female population. The only point I'm trying to tell you here is that we are also aging. Our fertility rates are dropping. Number of children born every year is also getting smaller and smaller. So that has ramifications for planning of the school education. And the population pyramid is changing, and we are mindful of that. This is what it looks like. What is the future of education? So this is a study I'm quoting from McKinsey, and it says that in due course of time, we are all going to require teachers across the country, and I'm just giving you an illustration of a few countries. And predictable physical work in due course of time is going to fall all across the world, which has, again, ramifications for the kind of policies which we are introducing. Teachers, it's important because somebody said that in due course of time, if we would require creativity, the rest of the work can be done by computers. But I'm a little scared nowadays when I see ChatGPT and what it does to creativity. So that's the kind of technology scenario which is emerging. What are the steps we are taking for access, equity, and inclusion? The Government of India stipulates that a class 1 to 5 should be within 1 kilometer of every habitation. Class 6 to 8 within 3 kilometers. If it is further than that, then we are providing transport conveyance. Under the Right to Education Act, we provide free entitlements of uniform and textbooks to all the children who are part of our government and government-aided schools. Most of the advantages which accrue to the students is being transferred to them through direct beneficiary transfer. So directly the money is being transferred to the account of the student. And there are steps being taken for inclusion of inclusive education by way of having a look at children with special needs, out-of-school children are being tracked. And I'm very happy to say that in India, the gross enrollment ratio for elementary education is almost about 100%. So we have very few children who are out of school. How does one go back? I'm sorry, a little. Can somebody come and help? Can we go back to this slide? Yeah.
Yes, they're loading it. They're loading it.
So our challenge is that now that we have almost everyone who's part of the school, our gross enrollment ratio is almost about 100%. What do we do? Our focus has now shifted, as per the National Education Policy 2020, on how do you ramp up the quality of education to improve the learning outcomes, and we have done two things. We've brought in a National Achievement Survey, and the National Achievement Survey has measured the COVID loss, learning loss due to COVID all across the country. And then we are the first country in the world to do a foundational level study so as to put in a benchmark for what should be the learning level in class 3 for all the languages, what number of words which may be read as per with comprehension, and also the kind of numeracy we should be able to do. Digital technology is being accessed in a very large way, and during the COVID time, we brought in television, radio and podcast, physical learning resources. We brought in interactive online processes, courses and ebooks, and recorded live sessions. And under the PM E-Vidya Diksha platform, we have created a repository of all the textbooks from class 1 to 12, which is available to each and every child. And I'm very happy to see that in the last couple of years, we've had 5.17 billion learning sessions, and these sessions are in 33 languages. What do we have to offer? We'll be having an exhibition just outside this hall, and in the afternoon, the chair would be inaugurating this PM E-Vidya, and you can have a look at the Diksha platform, which we have developed. We think, other than UPI and other things, this is a digital public good which India can offer.
മൂലം 70,000 ടൺ മുതൽ 75,000 ടൺ വരെ.
You think? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
We now request the next panelist to come and give the presentation, please.
Good morning, everyone. Very happy to be here with you in G20 in India. Thank you, India, and thank you, Chennai, and special thanks to Tamilnadu. Today, while we are talking about the accessibility and equity in education through digital learning, I think with the UAE is a little bit, it was earlier than the pandemic. The The UAE has an infrastructure of ecosystem that enable the transition to be accessible for the transition for the digital learning readily and easily. As earlier the profs mentioned this morning, that although digital learning is easily done, but still it's not easy to focus on the confrontation. So challenges are there, and also some challenges that lead to improvement. And the UAE, with the Ministry of Education ecosystem, is moving from student-centered discussion to making connection, to increased autonomy, and to building the relationship in order to achieve the focus of literacy. And this is what brings one family, the word in all focusing on literacy. So there were 4 strategies that still we are working on, let's say before the pandemic, and with the pandemic flourished these strategies with coping the challenges. The digital learning in the UAE stemmed from the Smart Learning Program of Mohammed bin Rashid Smart Learning Program, or the LMS, the Learning Management System in Education. This was, again, equipped to transition to distance learning within short time frame to ensure continuing of education and accessibility for all learners. So the 4 strategies were teacher and administrator training, curriculum, collaboration, and assessment. For the teacher and school administrator training, professional training for more than 25,000 government school teachers and administrators were taking place during the pandemic, and in particular during the lockdown. In addition to more than 9,200 private school teachers and school principals as well. So this also was aligned with Hamdan bin Mohammed Smart University in launching a free online course which was under the title of Be an Online Tutor in 25 hours. And this is also to provide the accessibility of teaching and learning for all learners and for academic personnel with skills of operating online classrooms all over the UAE. For the curriculum is a little bit different, where libraries created or e-libraries created and adaptive learning solutions such as Alex for math and My Own for English literacy, or let's say English language, to support learners with learners which have a focus on practice and remediation. Going back to the libraries, the UAE has now robust e-libraries with fundamental resources for both Arabic and English. So as we mentioned, My Own for English and Nahla wa Nahel for Arabic. So during the pandemic were developed weekly with developed resources and also improved resources for this. Weekly skills and knowledge checks were integrated into online platforms at the same time and contributed towards assessment. For the curriculum, I would like also to mention something regarding the agility of the curriculum, which allowing us to accommodate for learners and particularly the learning loss. So for instance, the English language has, or based on a level-based approach. This level-based approach presents a level-based to language learning pathways and proficiency levels to the expected stand in 3 stages: the identification of the level, the selecting of curriculum level, and grouping, or we can say the flexible grouping. The 4th strategy, or I can move to the 4th before the 3rd. I will keep the 3rd and moving to the 4th strategy, which is the assessment. This is something I would call it, because it was really a challenge and moved to be a very effective, a robust system, in which assessment always stand as a barrier of measuring the teaching and learning process. And during the pandemic, or with the lockdown at the beginning and then the hybrid learning, there was a thought of and for the UAE, Swift Assess was really a practice that we can say a best practice to share with you today. It allows digital assessment to take place from formative with a whole host of questions. So various questions are available for teachers to create offline and online. Going back to the extend this kind of collaboration. Stakeholders to smoothen this type of learning, which is the digital learning, and also follow by the hybrid at the same time. We put in the better to
And
fellow panelists. So, and I would like to thank transfer Agenda 2030. Countries in 2015 with all international platforms. I think important platforms. Since it has the top growing. The Vision 2030, which was launched in the Vision 2030, which was launched in 2016, placed education at its core. Recognizing the importance of education, the Ministry of Education adopted the strategic and identify the policy responses. The reform included expanding equitable access to quality early childhood education through constructing new classrooms, partnering with the private sector, engaging all education stakeholders, and hiring and training ECE teachers. In addition, the reforms included updating learning content, developing study plans, making curricular adjustments, and introducing new subjects and textbooks that prioritize foundational skills such as literacy, numeracy, and science, while nurturing critical thinking and life skills relevant to student lives and future success. A new trimester system, a 3-semester system, was implemented. The actual schooling days were increased from 152 days per year to 183 days to accommodate the integration of the new subjects, provide teachers with more opportunities to support students' learning, particularly those struggling with specific subjects, and enable the addition of extracurricular activities that can enrich student lives and support character development. And above all, to give teachers more time to try to offer remedial courses and plans for the learning loss caused by the mass closure of schools during the pandemic. The ministry also introduced multiple pathways in secondary education that enabled skill development. The pathways were based on learning interests and competencies according to labor market needs. During the COVID-19 pandemic, which tested all countries' dedication to education delivery and reaffirmed the need to enhance the responsiveness and resilience of education systems for future crises or emergencies. The Ministry of Education of Saudi Arabia responded swiftly by swiftly adopting alternative plans to support education continuity while mitigating the potential risks of learning losses. We established 2 state-of-the-art distance learning platforms. More than 6 million students were served by these 2 platforms. Digital contents were created to make learning more effective and attractive. And we also launched 25 education satellite channels covering all K-12 levels. And in the exhibition this afternoon, you will be able to visit the booth of our Ministry of Education and meet with our colleagues, Yahya, Rima, and Arwa, and you will learn more about these platforms and other initiatives that were implemented during the last 3 years. As for the future jobs, our Vision 2030 encompasses on all enabling factors, tools, and techniques necessary to facilitate equal opportunities in access to education and training, the achievements of higher education qualifications, and entry into an inclusive and quality labor market. We will continue to invest in education and training so that our young men and women are equipped for the jobs of the future. Our scholarship programs are steered towards top international universities and are awarded in the fields that serve our national priorities. We also focus on innovation in advanced technologies and entrepreneurship. Finally, I would like to thank you all, and I hope that we have successful and fruitful seminars and meetings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Abdul Rahman. I guess just like in any other country, COVID-19 has been one of the biggest disruptors we've had. And it has really tested the resiliency of the kind of systems we have, including the education system. We all have responded differently to it. And I guess to a very large extent, technology has come in and it has made everyone very familiar with it. Early childhood care, again, you have spoken about it. And as IIT Director mentioned in the last slide, that alphabet and numbers are something, there are 2 eyes with which you look at with the world. So I think all across, everyone is talking about foundational literacy and numeracy. In India also, we are paying a great amount of attention to how children learn from the age of 3 to 8. Now, may I request Ms. Maria Luzan to share her views, please.
Thank you very much. I'd like to share a little bit about what UNICEF has been doing on digital education, starting with our flagship initiative, Reimagine Education. Reimagine Education is a global initiative that seeks to approach digital learning from a systems perspective. We're trying to implement digital learning at scale and make sure that every child is reached. We have been focusing on various pillars. One of them is access to world-class digital learning solutions, increasing connectivity, as well as youth participation. But we have also focused as well on financing, teacher training. The goal is to have a systems approach. Very different from what we're doing at the Office of Innovation. We have just launched recently a learning hub in Finland. The Learning Hub is looking at frontier technologies and it's more forward-looking So here we're trying to look at what's coming and how can we use, for instance, artificial intelligence for learning. We also have an initiative on connectivity in partnership with the ITU, the International Telecommunications Union, and we're trying to map every school and create a methodology to connect schools to the internet and keep them connected to the internet. As you know, this is very challenging in many countries, often because of the infrastructure or because of financial reasons. So we are creating several business models that we can customize to the reality of every country to make sure that schools can be connected to the internet and remain connected. So that's through the GIGA initiative. We're also working on, and I was happy to hear the professor earlier speak about accessibility. That's also a major area at UNICEF. We're trying to make digital learning content accessible through the Accessible Digital Textbooks initiative, and I invite you to visit us later at the exhibition if you want to learn more about that. It's about including universal design for learning into digital content. And also, evidence generation has been key in the last couple of years, especially in developing context. We have very little evidence. Now we have more on what's working and what's not working. We have been working with our institute, UNICEF Office of Research, on identifying best practices. And also, we recently launched an initiative. It's called Gateways. We launched it at the Transforming Education Summit, which is focusing precisely on that, on generating evidence on what works, establishing partnerships with the private sector, with research institutions, etc., to try to promote the generation of evidence, but also trying to create more synergies among partners. We feel that's necessary, partnerships. Finally, since COVID, we have also been working on digital learning on various fronts. I wanted to mention the learning recovery strategy that we have introduced. It's called the RAPID framework in collaboration with our partners. We're looking at reaching every child, keeping them at school, developing psychosocial support for students, prioritizing fundamentals in the curriculum, but also identifying the strategies that work for learning recovery in the classroom. As a part of that, we introduced digital learning, especially within the context of remediation, and we conducted with the support, in collaboration with the World Bank, UNESCO, and the OECD, 4 rounds of surveys with 93 countries to assess the progress of the implementation of the RAPID framework. The results are very positive. We still have a long way to go. We still have to work harder to reach every child. But hopefully with technology, we'll be able to explore new solutions and achieve greater results. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria. I guess the common thread which connects all of us is the fact that how we've been utilizing technology in reaching out and ensuring access to each and every child. You spoke about partnerships with various stakeholders, and partnerships are important for all of us. Now may I request Michael Johnston to share his views with us.
All right, thank you very much, everyone. I'd like to start by acknowledging our very gracious and welcoming Indian hosts here today. Thank you very much for your warm welcome and hospitality for all of us arriving here in Chennai. It's a great pleasure to be here. And I'd also really like to commend and reinforce my panelists' comments of the great initiative taken to supplement the meetings here with more detailed workshops to explore and unpack critical issues in education which all countries are facing, and sharing in a very open and collaborative spirit. That is the spirit in which Australia will be taking to our participation in the G20 meetings this week in support of our Indian hosts, so thank you very much. I was reflecting on this morning's discussion from our esteemed panellists from IIT Madras, in particular Professor Andrew Thangaraj, where he said a lot of the digital education or tech-enabled education solutions that are being developed and implemented here in India have a focus of not leaving students alone. I think that's really critical and is a really nice sort of way of summarising some of the initiatives that Australia has been undertaking through the pandemic, but indeed before the pandemic, since the 1950s, in providing greater access to education through the use of the technology available at that time. The other key theme in terms of my remarks and what I want to share today is focused on digital education, or the use of technology being the great equaliser for overcoming multiple challenges. As many of you know, the geography of Australia is very large. We have a comparatively smaller population that clings to the edges around major cities of our coastlines. However, we do have significant populations living in fairly rural and remote locations, and this has really driven by necessity a need for us to develop and innovate over many decades in providing greater access to education and use of technology that we have at hand at that particular time. Digital delivery allows students to tailor their education experiences to their preferred location and style of learning, making education more accessible to those who face barriers to access traditional forms of delivery. Australia's education system, much like India and many other countries in this room, is federalised and is a shared effort between our federal or centre government and our state governments. But also, our broader stakeholders include subnational governments, peak bodies, industry association, teachers, and of course the students. And this ecosystem really works collaboratively together to minimise barriers to accessing high-quality education and to increase the participation and outcomes of vulnerable, disadvantaged, and underrepresented learners. During the pandemic, like many other countries, Australia's school system demonstrated agility and commitment in adjusting to remote learning conditions. So Australian students, by and large, have continued to receive a high-quality education and to be able to progress their learning with as minimal disruption as is possible. This has probably been as a direct response to our history with delivering distance education, or the School of the Air, which I will talk about shortly, and has really enhanced our ability to move quickly to support students throughout the pandemic. Following the pandemic, Australia is committed to building resilient education systems, and we recognise the importance of prioritising student and staff mental and physical wellbeing in quality education delivery. It is important that students are equipped with digital literacy skills to engage with modern education, including online learning. From 2023, so this year, the Australian National Curriculum will include an expanded digital literacy component to ensure teachers better understand how school students can confidently use technology, and probably as well support teachers in the use of that technology in educating their students. Digital technologies are embedded in the school curriculum, including focusing on further developing understanding and skills in computational thinking, and also focuses on engaging students with specialised learning in preparation for vocational training or learning in the senior secondary years. Adapting curriculums and modes of delivery is not new for Australia, as I have alluded to. Since the 1950s, actually in 1951, Australia established what we call the School of the Air, and we consider this one of our great inventions and contributions to education methodology and delivery. Distance education, or the School of the Air, was originally implemented using shortwave radio networks, and it was initially used to broadcast school lessons in a very passive way. Over time, distance education is designed to provide access to those students who cannot attend face-to-face education, whether it's due to geographic isolation, medical or social emotional health issues, or for sporting or artistic activities. Due to the vast distances covered in Australia by our distance education policies and programs, the education program provided for students is centred around correspondence material, with broadcast lessons, telephones, emails and online services used to complement the program. Some students who are studying at a traditional school may also use distance education to access subjects not offered at their school but offered maybe in a nearby region. This helps ensure students in rural, regional and remote areas can access the same high-quality educational opportunities as their peers in major cities. Interestingly, when the School of the Air was implemented in 1951, students would receive their materials by mail. So you could imagine the delay that took in terms of delivery of those materials. Over time and over the preceding decade, shortwave radio was used, telephone, and now what we're seeing, and this really goes to the point of Professor Andrew earlier, the use of digital technology creates an interactive learning environment where before the learning was probably more passive. Digital technology, though, will continue to be a central part of learning, and as such, Australia places great importance on understanding how to better support teachers and students to engage with high-quality online learning. So to do this, Australia has recently opened the Australian Research Council Centre of Excellence for the Digital Child to help us understand the impact digital technology has on children, how it can extend their learning, build their skills, and enrich their lives. The research which this centre will undertake integrates child health, early childhood learning, education, and digital and social connectedness to help meet the ongoing challenges of young children growing up in a digital age. The shift to online and blended modes of education during the pandemic has shown us the transformational value of technology, but has also highlighted that there are risks of reinforcing existing inequalities. For example, not all students have access to infrastructure facilities for online learning. Providing vulnerable, disadvantaged populations in Australia, including Indigenous Australians, people with disabilities and those in remote communities with access to the infrastructure is a priority for our government. So we've commissioned research early in the pandemic to examine the impact of remote learning on education outcomes to inform future policy developments. The Australian Government is also progressing an initiative to provide 12 months of free broadband access for up to 30,000 unconnected families with school-aged children, which will commence this year. Also during the pandemic, Australian schools provided vulnerable and disadvantaged students with options for either online or face-to-face learning in recognition of the fact that they were more likely to experience significant impacts to their learning. Assistive technologies, EdTech, and new and emerging private sector and government incentivised applications also have a role to play in the adaptation of methodologies and school curriculum to digital and technological enabled education. Since 2014, Australia has been delivering the Early Learning Languages Australia program, or ELA. It's a digital play-based program which includes a series of interactive apps to help with language learning for young students. So these kinds of solutions that are coming to us thick and fast through EdTech can also really assist in assuring and supporting teachers and students in the use of technology in education. Further, Australia supports inclusive and equitable quality education globally through forums like the G20 and others. We strongly invest in and are committed to improving foundational skills and learning for all, particularly for girls and children, for girls and children with disability in the Indo-Pacific region. Australia is committed to collaborating to overcome challenges together with partner governments, multilateral organisations, non-government organisations and the private sector, and we're very happy to and have done and will continue to share our expertise relating to, as all of us emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic. In addition to some of our aid programs across the Indo-Pacific, which has a very strong focus on early learning and school education, Australia also supports global initiatives such as the Global Partnership for Education to support a safer and more prosperous region. As we all know in this room, education is the key glue to everything we want to achieve in the world. It improves economic opportunities, boosts human capital, promotes health and social mobility, increases gender equality and social inclusion, and it makes institutions function more effectively to support peace and security. How we leverage technology in the delivery of education moving forward will continue to strengthen and advance these goals. Australia is very much looking forward to engaging with G20 members here in the room to advance a more inclusive and equitable future for learners, particularly through initiatives that capitalise on the benefits of the digital age. And I commend again India's initiative for today's workshop. Thanks very much.
So Australia, you mentioned about Australia, huge distances, geographical, population concentrated at the coastline, poses its own challenge. How teachers are being enabled to give out digital education, and the impact of technology on the educational system is also what Australia is grappling with. Teachers' innate ability needs to be strengthened, and that is, I guess, going to be one of the challenges before us. Thank you, Michael. Before I sum up, I must share a view of mine which we feel and we are all experiencing. In 1453, when Gutenberg first printed the Bible, the next 450 years, we evolved an education system which is primarily based on books. A books ecosystem of a school which included human touch. Children went to school, met with each other, were part of a certain ecology. In the last 20, 30 years, technology has crept into our lives, and perhaps catalyzed by the COVID, we are finding ourselves more and more reliant on digital technology. We are moving away from book-based education, and also where human touch is perhaps going to be minimal. How it is going to impact the larger ecology of how we deal with each other is what the education system is going to grapple with in the next maybe a decade or two. You know, when you read about 21st century skills, one of the things they tell you is that we must be taught empathy. I always thought that empathy is something very human. How do you teach empathy and bring in as a 21st century skill is going to remain a challenge, and is going to remain with us for a very long time. May I take this opportunity to thank all my colleagues, Dr. Samira, Maria, Dr. Abdul Rahman, and Michael Johnston, for sharing their country-specific views with us. Thank you so much, and thank you for being with us.
Excuse me, please be seated. We now have the question and answer sessions. So now the floor is open for the questions. Thank you.
So hi, I am Ranjit Nanda, a faculty in the Department of Physics, IIT Madras. It was nice to listen all the discussion in this session so far. It's true that the digital education is here to stay and it will take us to newer heights. But if you look at the education, it has three pillars: social development and development as a human. The third pillar is always dynamic and shaky. That is, the education must lead to jobs. So when we talk about the digital education, and job profile changes every 5 years, every 10 years. And nowadays it is changing even very rapidly. Someone was talking about the ChatGPT. So I request the honorable panelist to shed insight on how they look at it, how to create the digital education so efficient to produce jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. May I request Dr. Samira, please?
Yes, thank you for the question. And as we said, this is a trajectory that we need to make sure that it's improved, not just to keep it with the same challenges. So to maintain something that is in a very, let's say, fast track, that it could be changed day after day. So this is how we engage the people and the students, the learners in this. Bringing the talents and the innovative youngers in our system and to put there all their thoughts and their ideas. That could be, I think, this is just, in my opinion, something that we need to bring it in our system. And we need to, to improve it and to support it, to enhance our youngers' thoughts in this. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Abdul Rahman, please.
Thank you very much for your question. Thank you, Dr. Samira. So yes, technology, the fast-changing technology kills many jobs, but also creates double the number of these jobs. So the destiny of education is to try to always cope with the fast-changing technologies, and because the role of education is to provide generations with the knowledge, skills, and values and attitudes. So the skills should be the skills that they will use in their life. What they will use in their life is the technology that they have. If you teach them any other technology or whatever, this will not be interesting for the students, and they will not benefit from them in their lives. So it's our role as educators, higher education, public education, to try to cope with these fast-changing and try to teach students or help students learn how to learn and how to use technology, how to cope with it. Self-learning is an important aspect in that. I think technology is playing an important role in increasing access to education, students in rural areas, students or countries that are deprived because of economic problems, wars, conflicts, etc. Technology can help in increasing the access to education. And I believe that we should use technology at scale, use the best of it, and try to update our systems so that they can cope with the fast-changing technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Abdul Rahman. Anyone else?
Thank you. Is this on? Can everyone hear me? Thank you.
Could you just introduce yourself and then ask the question, please?
Absolutely. My name is Alison Dell. I'm the delegate from Australia. I work for the Ministry of Education. And actually my question is also for Dr. Samira. Australia is always looking to improve the way we do things in our curriculum. So I wondered if you could please explain a little bit more about your curriculum flexibility in your English learning, and was that for students to choose where the levels, or was it for teachers, and how was that different from before the pandemic? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question. So for the level-based approach, it was before the pandemic, but then improved more with the pandemic. This is for students, yes, but not students to choose more than students to be placed in the level that is compatible with their skills. This is based on also assessment, like the diagnostic test and so on. And it is through the, or during the whole academic year, so they can improve their levels within the academic year, not just a level based on the grade level. So this is more flexible, yes, during the pandemic, because also the My Own platform support this level-based curriculum. It is also according to the level-based approach. So the reading platform or the literacy platform designed also to feed this system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Samira.
Yeah, I'm Hema Murthy, faculty at IIT Madras in the Computer Science Department. And I have been doing a lot of work on education. And my question is to Dr. Sanjay Kumar. The dropout rate in India is very high. People fail in English and mathematics. So is there any way to kind of get them into the mainstream and make them finish grade 10? This is a big problem. We know that suicides are also very high in our country at this level. Pacing the exam when the child is ready to take. Can you do English first, then do later mathematics, starting from November till June, so that you don't miss out on the 10th, 12th standard or whatever it may be? That's the question that I have.
Thank you, Professor. I wish I was a doctor, but I am without the appellation. So I'm just Sanjay Kumar. Yes, you've raised a very valid point. And as I was mentioning in my introduction also, that we've been pretty successful in ensuring that our GR for elementary education has almost climbed up, almost next to 100. But then when I look at the transition rate from the elementary to secondary and higher secondary, we find that almost we are losing 30% of the children. And this transition rate is a major challenge for us. Now, one of the ways the new education, the national education policy is going to look at it is, A, we are wanting to make education more holistic. And with more emphasis on the foundation, literacy and numeracy, we do hope that by the time the child comes to class 3, he has adequate skills to be able to read with comprehension and also do basic arithmetical, have an appreciation for numbers. The NEP also says that, okay, earlier vocationalization was being introduced from 9th onwards. Now we are going to introduce it from 6th onwards. So not all children need to do physics, science, or commerce. A lot of them can also find their aptitude in doing vocational education, and this is one of the ways we are looking at by which we can reduce the transition rate. Maths definitely is one of the issues. And I guess to a very large extent, it also depends on how we are teaching mathematics. We need to teach mathematics in a more innovative, imaginative manner, and that remains a challenge for us. How do we train our teachers to be able to teach mathematics in a more engaging manner? We shall be looking at it. Due to paucity of time, we will be able to take maybe 1 or 2 more questions.
Hello. Sir. I am a faculty in the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences. My name is Merin Semiraj. We have been working at the intersection of technology and humanities at the Center for Memory Studies. So what we've been doing is using immersive technology, particularly the tools of XR, augmented reality and virtual reality. We've been focusing on recreating history, heritage, and memory, and using it for pedagogical purposes through the use of mobile applications and immersive use. So we would like to know your thoughts also on using this collaboratively in an international forum like this. Thank you so much.
Michael, would you attempt this?
Well, that sounds like a really good initiative. And as a history student many, many years ago, I think that offers like a great opportunities for learners in terms of engaging with different, stimulus, different, subject matter in a way that's not just sort of, flat in terms of, maybe how we were educated in terms of use of books and those sorts of things. I think, the multidisciplinary approach that you're taking is a really important one, and maybe goes to some of the points from the previous questionnaire as well around how do you incentivize students or stimulate students in class, and what role can technology play in doing that. And it sounds like the work you're leading here at IIT Madras is really tackling that in terms of keeping students engaged in the classroom. I support the greater flexibility as well, and Australia does likewise in terms of understanding that learners are all individuals and all have different strengths, and will bring a lot of those strengths to the world, including in their future careers. And so providing them with different learning styles, providing them with different opportunities, including through vocational education embedded in school curriculum. All of these things, in terms of providing greater student choice and agency, should help in terms of students being more interested and to attain higher levels of qualification. So your initiative sounds very interesting, and I'll be happy to talk a little bit more about it with you. So congratulations for that.
Ms. Maria also would want to say something on this.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes? I just wanted to comment on that. I find it fascinating, personally. My approach to these technologies is often taking a step back always and thinking about the why. So why are we trying to introduce this from a pedagogical perspective? Because sometimes the answer is, well, because we can, but that's not enough. We need to take things one step further. So because we can, and what do we get as a result? And are there any other ways in which we can reach the same outcomes that would not require this technology? So this is just a thought process for us to really make the most of these technologies. So to always question the why, what the outcome would be doing it in different ways, and what's very particular about this technology that you're using that will allow you to do things that other forms of teaching will not.
Professor Kamakoti, I'm told you want to make an intervention.
Yeah. So this is regarding mathematics education. There are two interventions that IIT Madras is planning. One already implemented. One is that we will be introducing the third online program on mathematics and computing along with a B.Ed program, it's a bachelor's in education, which will, with an objective to actually generate great mathematics teachers who can address at the school level, starting from 6th standard to 12th standard. This is intervention number one. The next intervention is that we have launched a course called Out of the Box Thinking Through Mathematics, which is targeted between 5th standard to, there is no age limit for that, which basically introduces mathematics in a different perspective. For example, when we look at a very simple example, when we look at conics, there are 300 plus formulas that we need to memorize by the end of our 12th standard. But can we solve conics problem without actually memorizing these formulas? And that is something which we are trying to address. A simple question, I leave it to all of you. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, 19. What is next? What is next? I say 31. Why it is correct, please? This is out of the box.
Thank you.
Sir, here, can I have the question, sir, please, here?
Yes, okay. We'll have the last question of the day.
Thank you very much. I am Dr. Sridhar, Vice Chancellor of Hindustan University, Chennai. My question is whether this digital technology has helped to bridge the gap of gender equity, especially in the countries where the girls will not be promoted to travel long distances to reach the school. Basically, the digital technology, is it helping the gender equity in the schools? That's my question, sir.
I will try to attempt this question, and I would request my co-panelists to supplement me. During COVID, we have seen an increase in digital divide. We have been able to put most of the material, all the courses are available online, but you need a device to access it. And availability of device has been an issue which we've been grappling with. People who've had internet connection at home and devices have had access to a multitude of courses which are being offered. But a large number of persons, more so in the rural area, where internet connectivity is not there, devices are not available. To be able to study, at least you need a smartphone in your hand for maybe, let's say, 3 to 4 hours a day. I think there has been an increase in India over availability of smartphone in the family, but again, that is with the head of the family. The boy may get it, but the girl may not get it for that period of time for which an intervention can be made in her life. So you've raised a very pertinent point. Availability of digital device in due course of time is going to limit our access. And collectively, we all need to think about it as to how do I make it available to one and all, maybe using different business models or marketing models. Thank you. Would anyone want to supplement on this?
Yeah, I think something very important here for such areas, the hubs and and I think you mentioned the hubs and the clubs also. Some countries.
Bring it closer.
Some countries used during the pandemic the clubs, the digital learning clubs for areas that it's difficult for the girls to travel to other places. And also the learning hubs, this would be really a good practice for the girls. And always let's think about digital learning for all. It's more than for gender, it's over gender.
I just wanted to mention quickly, yes, the gender digital divide exists in several countries. It's a reality. Parents are often the gatekeepers for girls. So at UNICEF, we are working with our social behavior change specialists on changing the perspective that parents have on digital learning so that they will allow girls to benefit from digital learning, but also changing helping the children learn how to access digital learning in a safe way. So those are the main areas that we need to work on in order to decrease the gender digital divide. There are others, but those are, and India is actually a great example. They developed already a groundbreaking, I would say. They are pioneers in this, in social behavior change to reduce the gender digital divide.
Thank you. I guess this session comes to an end. Wish we could have taken more questions. I take this opportunity to thank all my co-panelists and the audience for engaging with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and the panelists. I just ask you to stay there. We have a short felicitation for all of you. And I now request our Director of IIT Madras, Professor V. Kamakoti, to felicitate our special guests by gifting them with our traditional memento. Shri Sanjay Kumar, Secretary of School Education, Government of India. Mr. Matthew Johnston from Australia. Dr. Abdul Rahman Alamburi from Saudi Arabia. Dr. Maria Lujan Tubio from UNICEF. Dr. Samira Al-Hosani from UAE Ministry of Education. Thank you so much for that wonderful felicitation. Thank you, Chair, and all the panelists who were present for the first session. Thank you. Yes, you can leave now. Thank you so much. Thanks for bearing with us and thanks for being patient. Yes. To facilitate smooth movement into and out of the auditorium and avoid overcrowding of the washrooms, I request you to please note the following. The second exit to my right is reserved for the guests seated in the rows from A to H. I request the guests in the remaining rows to please wait till the guests from rows A to H leave the hall. The guests in the remaining rows may please use the first door To my right for exit and entry. The restrooms on the 7th floor are for the guests seated from rows A to H, and the restrooms on the 6th floor are for those seated in remaining rows. We kindly request all of you to be back to the auditorium within 25 minutes, as the next session will start exactly at 12 p.m. I now request the liaison officers and student volunteers to help our distinguished guests of eminence to exit for the tea and coffee break from the second exit to my right side, and the others, please be seated until they leave the auditorium. Thank you for your patience. We now request all the others to use the first exit to my right and leave the auditorium for your tea and coffee break.